Mexico is the first stop in today's Wide World program, which looks at some of the fascinating treasures to be found below ground and underwater. This is Guanajuato, a town whose fame is literally built on silver, for it lies at the heart of the Mexican silver industry. Many churches and grandiose buildings have been left here by mine owners, grateful for the wealth they'd found underground. Guanajuato's full of reminders of its mining history. Even some of the streets started out as mine galleries, only becoming public byways when the silver gave out. But there's plenty more silver in the area, enough, in fact, to put Mexico in the top rank of world producers. The Valenciana mine was opened by the Spanish in the 1700s, and it was once the country's biggest. It's a little run down now, but the solid wall of silver on which it was founded is still there, and is still being exploited without modern technology.
Bueno.
Valenciana is typical of most Mexican mines, still relying on traditional methods and manpower rather than mechanization. Miners work an 8-hour day, pushing a ton of rock for 15 miles from rock face to elevator. Their pay is low, methods are inefficient, and only the rising price of silver makes the mine worthwhile. Watching over the work and the men is Saint Cayetano. Many old Mexican mines display statues of saints. Traditionally, the more hazardous the mine, the taller the statuette. With world demand for silver steadily rising, Mexico is stepping up its development of the huge Guanajuato lode. Investment is being poured into a much more up-to-date mine here at Las Torres. These men work in a safe and well-equipped environment. But even here, superstitions die hard. Las Torres miners are the country's underground elite, a cut above the pick and shovel brigade. This machine is nicknamed the Jumbo. It does the work of 20 men and carves out more than 2,000 tons of silver a year. More mechanization, this time to replace the laborious system of tubs and rail lines used in the older mines. There's no manual pushing at Las Torres, as several bulldozers feed a constant line of conveyor belts. The dozers keep the workface clear of rubble and reduce the workforce by hundreds. After reaching the surface, the ore must be crushed and processed. Steel balls inside this drum pulverize the rock to a fine powder. It's then separated from the silver by washing. Bubbles of pure silver. More than 30 million ounces of it are exported from Mexico every year, mainly to Europe, Japan, and the United States. Plans to expand facilities here are part of the Mexican government's aim of making Las Torres the most efficient silver mine in the world. Las Torres has attracted international investment too. Several overseas companies are backing the mine's future with finance and expertise. These Canadian consultants are inspecting the site for a processing plant, a major new development at the mine. Not all the silver goes overseas. Within sight of Las Torres work some of Mexico's most skilled craftsmen. This man's specialty is modern jewelry, but he incorporates the old artistic styles of Aztec Indians who lived in this area 400 years ago. Buying silver and gold has always been an insurance against inflation. The trend has a double value, for when you buy insurance like this, you can wear it too. All this silverware was made by one man from Guanajuato. So far, poorer Mexicans have got few benefits from the silver boom. But experts say these mountains around Guanajuato are full of ore, a silver lining that may eventually benefit the whole of Mexico. Mining is the connection between silver in Mexico and salt in Poland. We're in the small Polish town of Wieliczka to visit a rather unusual salt mine. Visitors come here all year round, not so much to study mining as to admire a world of natural beauty that's been fashioned by the skillful hands of Wieliczka's miners. This chandelier was made from salt crystals. It's one of several lighting up a huge man-made cavern that is, in fact, a chapel dedicated to Saint Kinga, patron saint of salt miners. 700 years ago, Princess Kinga bequeathed these rich salt deposits to the Polish people, and in salt, she is still remembered. The Last Supper, carved from a wall of salt. The chandeliers, the altar, and these biblical scenes are all the work of two brothers, Józef and Tomasz Markowski, miners here 80 years ago, but also artists of great sensitivity. This is the Slaughter of the Innocents, the chapel's most impressive relief sculpture. The brothers spent many years decorating St. Kinga's chapel, and generations of miners have carried on this unique folk art. Intricate models show how the mines worked centuries ago. Horses and pulleys were used to lift huge blocks of salt from one level to another. And this is the real thing, the oldest surviving horse-powered wheel dating from the 17th century. Up to 4 horses walked round and around the wheel, winding in or letting out the ropes. Fragile-looking cogs turned the big wheel while ropes and pulleys slowly dragged blocks of salt to the surface. These original hemp ropes were hand-woven with the thickness of a man's arm. Later on, they were replaced by chains and buckets. Miners also went up and down to work in these tiny elevators. The Industrial Revolution brought mechanization and steam power to the mine, finally putting an end to antiquated equipment and worn-out mining techniques. Mining still goes on here, though on a smaller scale. Today's miners are well paid, their conditions are good, and they travel to the workface in comparative luxury. Salt is mined from the 5th level down, 400 meters underground. But for safety reasons, tourists can't come this far. The men still have to walk 2 kilometers through caves and tunnels before they reach the working area. Some old ideas never die, like the trusty miner's lamp. Although the men use the latest equipment, hand tools still have their place. These days, salt is mined by reducing the rock to a brine solution, then pumping it to the surface. So much easier than lifting massive blocks hundreds of feet. As in conventional coal mining, drilling first loosens the rock. Automation plays a large part underground. Here, an electric-powered scoop drags away the broken rock. But it's not all work. Miners and tourists alike find in these caverns a subterranean world of stalagmites, stalactites, and clusters of bright crystals. The miners were so fascinated by the strange crystals and rock formations that they put the best examples on display, like art treasures from another world. We're at the 2nd level of the mine, 200 meters down. And the nurse you see isn't so out of place as you might think, because this is a sanatorium. There's young and old down here, and room for 60 patients. Most of them suffer from asthma, skin diseases, or nervous complaints. The underground clinic was suggested by a doctor at the mine. He calls it subterranotherapy, and he's been practicing it here since 1964. In theory, these salt walls release microbiotic elements into the air, providing relief and possibly a lasting cure for certain illnesses. Patients sleep down here 2 nights a week during treatment, and so far, 3,000 people have stayed at the sanatorium. It's no medical breakthrough, but doctors believe the results are encouraging. Up in the sunlight again, and more visitors are arriving for a day underground. Deep below the Polish countryside, they'll soon share a unique experience, a history of mining immortalized in salt. From salt underground in Poland to gold underwater off America. We're on the ocean floor near the coast of Florida, searching for sunken treasure from a Spanish galleon that went down in these waters 350 years ago. This boat is anchored over the wreck, which is called the Atocha. Its holds are reputed to have contained one of Spain's richest cargoes of gold and silver. These treasure hunters have already found some astounding examples. 8 feet of solid gold chain was the first sign that they'd hit on something big. It was no sudden discovery. The team's been diving in search of the Atocha's treasures since 1964. One determined man, Mel Fisher, has led the hunt, and it's his obsession that kept the project going. It's a family venture and an incredibly expensive one, costing $3,000 a day. But it's also very profitable. Fisher's team has so far recovered about $24 million worth of gold and silver. It's only the tip of the iceberg as far as Fisher's concerned. He reckons there's another $600 million lying on the seabed. Every day, the divers go down to widen their search and rake over every inch of the ocean floor. Salvaged items are not only commercially valuable, they're also of great historical interest. Pieces from the Atocha can reveal how the ship broke up in shallow water and where its main holds should be. Evidence shows the ship sank during a hurricane after leaving Havana in 1622. Almost all its passengers and crew were lost. This divers found a human tibia bone that probably belonged to one of the Atocha's crew. Discoveries like these pottery pieces show where certain parts of the ship may now rest. In this case, it's the galley. Evidence like this will help the team to direct the search more precisely on future dives. For Mel Fisher, the Atocha project is a dream come true. almost every dive produces tantalizing evidence that he's very close to the jackpot. The wreck was positively identified as the Atocha with the discovery of 5 silver ingots like this one. According to the records, another 896 of them are still in the wreck, each weighing 72 pounds.
These marks over here are the coin marks. Philip IV. You can just see part of Philippus.
Yeah, you can barely see it made out there.
I believe that this A and this R right here stand for the Areola family. And Areola was actually on the Atocha itself when it sunk. And this is going to be his own personal mark.
I think it might be a personal bar he brought on board rather than part of the cargo.
I do, and I believe it could very well have been up in the stern castle, which is why we found this one and not found 901 of them.
Yeah.
This number right here is going to be on the manifest. That's the shipper's number. That would have been stamped on when it was loaded. And Philip IV, his mark is right there.
Finds like these make the long search worthwhile. But Mel Fisher has had his setbacks too. Florida disputes his ownership of the gold. And there have been 4 tragic diving accidents in which his son and daughter-in-law were killed. But Fisher remains undaunted and even more determined than ever to raise the greatest hoard of Spanish treasure from beneath the sea.